Thank you very much, Mayor Zanotti. Mayor, a very quick clarifying question on campaign finance reform that you just mentioned. How soon will an elected council be charged? What's their deadline to come up with ethics rules that include campaign finance reform?
The charter doesn't require a time deadline, but here's the difference. We're saying now that we're going to hold this government accountable. We're going to elect people. We're going to elect people. We're going to elect local representatives who we know, who will live in our districts, and we're going to hold them accountable. So I'm going to suspect that every candidate that has a desire to run for council next year is going to accept that mantle and will have read the charter and read the responsibilities that says you shall develop the code of ethics. And we expect that they will accept that responsibility when they run for office and make that the first thing on their agenda when they get elected.
Thank you, sir. On that issue of a code of ethics and ethics more generally, Commissioner Jones, what guarantees are there for voters that passing issue 5 would improve the climate of accountability and transparency in government?
Well, you not only have to pass issue 5, you have to make sure to support the Real Reform Done Right slate. And very quickly, I find it very amusing when it's stated that this slate will do the bidding of the current county commissioners when, once again, Tim Hagan was not even involved in helping to do outreach to people to see who was interested in running on the team. And I was one of, I think, about 40 or so people. So this is not the hand-picked group of the county commissioners, number one. But number two, I think what's most important to know relative in response to your question is that of the slate members that I happen to be supporting, 13 of them have already pledged that county government campaign finance reform will be one of the first things that they will tackle, and that they'll place it in no uncertain terms in the charter. It won't be left to a group of, to hopefully a group of council members will be elected who will be sympathetic to this issue. Those who are planning to draft this charter under issue 5 have already pledged and promised that that will be an important component of their charter.
Commissioner Jones, I want to ask you, too, about something you said. You pointed out that the Plain Dealer had said that the process that created Issue 6 was not pretty. I was wondering if you could talk about the process that put Issue 5 on the ballot and the timing of that process, which was certainly appeared less than pretty.
Well, I thought it was gorgeous myself. I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's yet another Exhibit A in that respect. The county commissioners received a letter from Harriet Applegate and other concerned citizens. And Harriet had been invited, and she participated in the Issue 6, crafting of that Issue 6 charter. But she was not happy with the result. Others weren't happy because of some of the flaws in the charter, because of what they viewed as the overall process. And they requested that the county commissioners consider placing a charter commission on the ballot. And we responded in the affirmative. I think it's absolutely true that change is a-coming. And change is indeed required and mandated in terms of restructuring county government. There's no objection or disagreement with that proposition whatsoever. But we also didn't want to find, and those who opposed Issue 6 didn't want to find themselves in the position of simply being like Nancy Reagan and just saying no to Issue 6. There had to be a viable option, an alternative for those who want change but want real reform done right. Issue 5 provides that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Jones. Mayor Zanotti, a criticism raised by Commissioner Jones has to do with the inherent parochialism, I'm paraphrasing here, of creating an 11-member council that are serving specific districts and no at-large members as they have in Summit County. Can you talk about, explain why a district-based council is actually a good thing and would serve the interests of all county residents?
Sure. I'd be happy to. We had great discussion about the districts, the size of the districts, the representation at large versus districts. And one theme that was pretty consistent for us is that people don't know anything about county government. It's a The charter covers a little over $1.1 billion, over 5,800 employees, and if you ask most of the people what their county government does, they haven't a clue. They haven't a clue what services it can provide. And quite frankly, having 3 commissioners that have no requirements to live in any particular jurisdiction of the county, we feel the county government's out of touch with the people. So if you're going to create a council system to provide representation, then you ought to bring it local. It works everywhere else with representatives. We all have our own congressional representatives, but somehow at the end of the day, good people get together and come up with plans that are best for the region, and we think that will happen here also with the district representatives.
Can I push you on that a little bit?
Sure.
Why shouldn't people see those districts? And if you look at the map, it seems very clear that pains were taken to ensure certain neighborhoods were kept together and so on and so forth. Why shouldn't people see that as carve-outs to satisfy certain constituencies, to ensure that a certain number of districts will be represented by African American candidates and a certain number will be represented by Republican candidates?
I don't think we'd run from that. I think that's the right way to do it. You have demographics in a county. If you're going to draw districts, you should make sure that the districts represent those demographics. The African Americans are a major constituency in this county. They represent over 28% of the people that live in the county. Doggone right they should have proper representation. I've been called a Republican, but I'm not one. But Republicans do live in Cuyahoga County, and they ought to have representation. Look, this isn't a partisan process if we're going to fix problems. The only way we fix problems is if we're bipartisan, if we do it fairly, and making sure that constituencies are properly represented is the best way to make sure that the government works properly from the day one. So I think we're proud of the way the demographics go. And quickly, we also know a census is coming up, and that's why we put in there that as soon as the 2010 census is done, we'll revisit the demographics to make sure they're still represented. But people deserve to be represented by their county government, and that's what we do.
Commissioner Jones, regarding the issue of, with issue 5, a lot of backers have said we are open to all ideas, and that's the point of it, that we would have an open process that would accept all ideas. It seems, however, that backers of issue 5 are open to all ideas except one, a county executive form of government proposed in issue 6. Can you reconcile those two stances for me?
Sure. You know, it's interesting you should state that because I was involved in the early stages in helping to recruit candidates who would be willing to serve on a charter commission. And there's one gentleman in particular that I called personally, and we were very excited to try to get him on board, a gentleman named Homer Taft. And Mr. Taft made it quite clear that he preferred the issue 6 approach. He made it quite clear that he preferred the county executive. But I said, you know, I understand that, but we want to make sure that all perspectives are represented on our slate and our team. And I have not, so not only in recruiting were we open to people who had different philosophical perspectives on this, but secondly, I have never heard any of at least the team that I happen to support state that they oppose a county executive and wouldn't consider a county executive form of government. And I should also add that...
Did you just say that none of the people on your...
I'm not aware of any of, no, I'm not aware of any of the 14 having stated that they would not entertain the possibility of a county executive.
I'd have to go back and check, but I'm almost certain that Harriet Applegate has said that she does not like the idea of a county executive.
I'm not familiar with that, number one. And number two, even if that were the case, Harriet would be one out of 14 members of the slate. Nobody else has expressed that. As a matter of fact, I'm responding to a second question that he posed.
Is that a rewrap?
Just a rewrap and
rewrap.
As a matter of fact, even when you look at the fact that Tim Hagan and I were most prepared to support the Abbott Commission, which had considered the county executive but rejected it and instead was going to have a president of the Board of County Commissioners, somebody who would be kind of a super commissioner, as it were, with kind of county executive powers to propose the budget relative to appointments. We were fine with embracing that. So that there's complete willingness on the part of at least the slate that I support to entertain a county executive. As a matter of fact, I think the other slate has said the only form of government they will entertain is if it mimics issue 6.